Some discoveries change lives forever. A hidden blueprint, an old journal, a buried secret waiting to be unearthed. Sometimes the past leaves behind echoes, whispering to those who dare to listen. Tonight we follow two brothers who thought they had made the deal of a lifetime, only to uncover a mystery that would bind them to a legacy far greater than they ever imagined. Settle in and let's begin. Brothers Henry and Tom had just made what they believed to be the purchase of a lifetime. It was a sprawling piece of land on the outskirts of town, secluded yet close enough to civilization to be practical. Their dream was to build a home of their own, a sanctuary where they could live surrounded by nature, away from the noise and chaos of the city. The land had come to them through an online auction at an unbelievably low price. They joked about it being too good to be true, but their excitement outweighed any doubts. On a crisp autumn morning, they set off to visit their new property for the first time, eager to see what they had bought. As they drove up the long, unpaved road leading to their plot, anticipation buzzed in the air. The brothers imagined the possibilities: a spacious house, a vegetable garden, maybe even a small barn. But as they approached the land, something unexpected came into view. Standing in the middle of the property was a shed. It was old and weathered, its rusty metal roof barely clinging to the walls. The structure had not been mentioned in the property listing, nor marked on the map they received after the purchase. Henry and Tom exchanged puzzled looks as they parked their car and stepped out onto their new land. The two brothers walked cautiously toward the building. Weeds and vines had grown over its walls, and the large double doors at the front were secured with a heavy chain and padlock. Henry circled the shed, looking for another entrance, while Tom inspected the lock. Tom grinned. "You've been dying for an excuse to play handyman. Go for it." Henry scanned the area and quickly found a steel pipe jutting out of a pile of rubble nearby. Using the pipe as a makeshift lever, he twisted and pulled against the chain. It took several attempts, but with a loud snap, the chain broke. "Nice work," Tom said, patting his brother on the back. Together they heaved the heavy doors open, revealing the interior of the shed. The air inside was damp and stale, carrying the scent of mildew and decay. Sunlight filtered in through cracks in the roof, casting eerie beams across the cluttered space. The shed appeared untouched for decades. Shelves lined the walls, covered in mold, and tools lay scattered across the floor, rusted beyond recognition. But what caught their attention were the large wooden boxes stacked in the back corner. Inside the first box, they found stacks of old documents, faded photographs, and what appeared to be a blueprint. The photographs depicted a stern-looking man with a handlebar mustache, a woman in a corset, and a young girl holding a doll. The clothing and style suggested these images were from the late 19th century. Henry unfolded the blueprint and studied it closely. It depicted a large house with detailed rooms and corridors. One detail caught his eye: a small hand-drawn signature in the corner, encased in an upside-down triangle. The initials read RS. The discovery ignited a curiosity in the brothers that couldn't be ignored. They decided to dig deeper, determined to uncover the identity of RS and the history of their land. Their first stop was the local library, where they hoped to find records or archives that could shed light on their findings. Weeks passed with no response, and the brothers began to lose hope. Then one morning, Tom received a phone call. The voice on the other end belonged to an elderly historian named Mr. Turner, who claimed to have information about RS. When Mr. Turner saw the blueprint the brothers had found, his eyes widened. "I have a similar blueprint," he said, retrieving a large sheet of paper from his archives. It was nearly identical to the brothers' blueprint, except for one key difference. The shed and its surrounding area were missing from Mr. Turner's version. The brothers returned to their property, their curiosity now bordering on obsession. They searched the shed meticulously, but nothing seemed out of place. Henry paced the floor in frustration, his footsteps echoing faintly. Then he noticed something unusual. Certain parts of the floor sounded hollow. The brothers grabbed tools and pried up the floorboards, revealing a hidden compartment beneath the shed. Inside was a small locked chest. Henry lifted it carefully, feeling the weight of its contents. When they opened the chest, they found an assortment of items, more documents, a journal, and a collection of gold coins. The journal, written in Robert Stevenson's hand, detailed his life, his achievements, his struggles, and his desire to leave a legacy for future generations. The final entry revealed something astonishing. Stevenson had hidden a fortune on the property, buried beneath a specific landmark described in the journal. Following the journal's instructions, the brothers located the landmark, a large oak tree near the edge of the property. They dug beneath its roots and unearthed a metal box containing bundles of cash, more gold coins, and a letter addressed "To my descendants." The letter explained that Stevenson had foreseen the collapse of his wealth due to mismanagement by his heirs and had taken steps to ensure that his fortune would survive for future generations. The brothers were stunned to realize they were likely distant relatives of Robert Stevenson, connected by fate to the land they had purchased. A faint, hollow thud echoed through the quiet evening air, interrupting Henry's thoughts as he walked through the overgrown backyard of the old property. He paused, his heart quickening, and glanced around. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but the sound had been so distinct, so deliberate, that he couldn't shake it. For a moment, he stood still, his ears straining for any follow-up noise. When none came, he stamped his foot tentatively on the ground beneath him. The sound repeated, muted, yet undeniable. A thrill of curiosity mixed with a twinge of doubt coursed through him. Was he imagining things? Henry's thoughts raced. This property, long rumored to hold secrets, had piqued his and his brother Tom's interest ever since they'd inherited it from their late uncle. It had seemed like little more than a dilapidated old shed in a patch of wild land, but now his imagination ran wild. "We dig," he said simply. There was no need for further discussion. Both men were driven by a shared excitement they could barely contain. They grabbed what tools they could find, an old spade, a gardening fork, and began to claw at the dirt with fervor. After what felt like an eternity, their tools scraped against something solid. Both men paused, panting, their hands trembling with exertion and anticipation. Clearing away the last remnants of dirt, they revealed a wooden hatch embedded in the ground. Summoning all their strength, the brothers heaved together. With a groan and a burst of splintering wood, the hatch finally gave way, revealing a dark void below. A chill emanated from the opening, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and something unplaceable. Henry grabbed the rickety ladder that descended into the void and tested its strength before beginning his descent. The wood creaked ominously beneath his weight, but it held. He reached the bottom and looked around, but the darkness was impenetrable. The brothers stumbled forward, their hands outstretched to avoid collisions with unseen obstacles. Their movements were amplified by the echo of their footsteps. As they searched the underground space, they found an old oil lamp. Henry lit it, revealing a hidden chamber lined with shelves, an ornate painting of Stevenson, and a sealed letter. The letter spoke of a hidden treasure reserved for Stevenson's true heirs. Following its clues, the brothers discovered a secret cabinet containing a chest filled with gold coins and ancient documents. Taking the treasure to the historian, they learned more about their connection to Stevenson and his legacy. The brothers decided to honor their ancestor by building a home on the property, modeled after Stevenson's original designs. Years later, the house became a family estate, complete with a museum dedicated to their discovery. Their lives had been forever changed, not just by the wealth they found, but by the connection they forged with their past.